Okay, in this video, I'm going to be going over a bunch of different types of factoring. And I know technically sometimes we solve, but I think the harder step is to factor. So here's 5 problems for you to try. Copy them down on a sheet of paper, try them one at a time, and then watch the video and we'll go through any ones. We'll go through all of them, but then you can kind of check your work that way. All right, and just a thing to remember, there's all these different types of factoring, which kind of makes it hard, like square minus square, or the cube patterns, or the grouping where you have 4 terms, and then there's this x to the 4th x squared c pattern, constant pattern, the normal case, and then always looking for a GCF. So there's kind of a lot to keep track of here, which is what makes this so hard. But I encourage you to kind of use this as a guide, right? Use this thing over here as a guide. All right. So hopefully you've got a chance to try all these before continuing. All right, so here we go with our answers. My pen's not working, so I might just have to type them out here. But anyways, this particular one is just a GCF, right? You've got 2 terms, and they both have an x and a 2. So we can just pull the front 2 and x. All right, so what that would look like is if you take out 2x, then you just have an x minus 3 left over. And that's it, right? So that would be what it factors apart to. And again, if we were solving here, we'd set them to 0, right? We'd have 2x equals 0. Sorry, I can't write very good without my pen. And x minus 3 equals 0. And we get 2 answers of divide by 2 here. One answer, this is 0. And then add 3, and the other answer is 3. Right? So if it said solve, that's what it would look like. But again, we're going to focus mostly on the factor steps. All right, number 2, go ahead and give it a shot. Okay, so our answer here is this is a square thing minus a square thing. So the way that this is going to factor is you're going to make 2 little binomials, and basically a squared minus b squared factors to a plus b times a minus b. So essentially you've got to do the square roots, right? So I think of a square root as like, what do I need to make 4x squared? What do I need here and here? Well, I need a 2 and an x, right? So 2x times 2x makes 4x squared, which is really just the square root of this. Okay, similarly for the 49, we're just going to square root it, get 7 and 7. And then we need 1 plus 1 minus, because I have to multiply to negative 49. And so this thing factors apart to those 2 binomials. Okay, and again, the reason this works, you don't have to necessarily write this out here, but it's like there's 0x in the middle. And so if we were foiling, we'd have like a minus 14x here and a positive 14x here, and that would make 0x in the middle. So that's sort of why this factoring works, but you don't necessarily have to include that in your answer. I just put that there to help you understand it. Okay, so here's our factored form. All right, so number 3, I would always look for a GCF first, all right, because on the test there's one that looks like this one on the right here. And so they both start x to the 4th, and so students get confused in these 2 situations. So with the red one on the right, that actually has a GCF of x squared because all the terms have x squared in them. Okay, so you can start by pulling that out, and then I think this particular one actually factors further, x plus 1 and x plus 2. That multiplies to 2 and adds to 3. So on that one, you want to do a GCF. On the one, our current problem here, we don't have a GCF for all 4 terms, but the pattern is x to the 4th x squared and constant. And so when that happens, we're just going to do x squared and x squared to make the x to the 4th, and then make it multiply to 12 and add to 8. So if we look at things to multiply to 12, I believe 2 and 6 will add up to 8. All right, and so again, this works because if we think about the middle terms, that'll give us 2x squared, and this will give us 6x squared. Sorry, that 6 turned out kind of poor, but that makes the 8x squared in the middle. Okay, so basically it's equal. This trinomial at the start is equal to these two things if we break it apart. Okay, so our answer is this, because our goal is to factor, so that's our answer. Okay, another factor one. Pause the video, give it a shot. So the trick here is to realize GCFs, okay? So in the front, actually when you have 4 terms, you want to group them and then look for GCFs. There's no GCF for all 4, but if we group them in the front, we can take out x squared because they both have at least x squared in them. Leaves us with just a single x here and a plus 2. And then in the back, they're both divisible by 16, and I'm actually going to pull out negative 16. Right, which leaves us with x and plus 2. If you divide both of these by negative 16. Okay, and now our answers are going to be what's in front. So an x squared minus 16. And then the parts that match. So that's x plus 2. Okay, and again, we're not solving really, we're just factoring. All right, so our answers would be, if we were to solve, would be negative 2 if we set this one to 0. And then the other factor, if we set it to 0, we'd have to add 16, take the square root, and you get plus or minus 4. Okay, so if we were solving, that's what it'd look like. If it says factor, what I have right here is factored form, and we'd be done. Okay, last one. This is by far one of the hardest things we do all year. So this is a cube pattern. And so first off is to realize there's 2 cube patterns. But this question, we want to use the second one because of the minus between them. Okay, so it's going to factor to this cube thing minus cube things, factors to the cube roots, like a minus b, and then a squared plus a times b plus b squared. So we have to sort of figure out what is a and b. All right, so if this is our setup, the x cubed is really like the a cubed. So if you cube root both of these, that tells you that a is x. So I can write it out on there, I guess, but basically we're doing a cube root. Sometimes it makes it more messy than it does helpful, but anyways, the b cubed is the 125, right? So to figure out what b is, you sort of do like a cube root, and the cube root of 125 is just 5, right? So all that work was just to find a and b. Okay, and now we're going to plug them into this pattern here. Okay, so the pattern says we do this thing factors. I guess I could write equals to, but it factors to a minus b, x minus 5, x squared, a squared I guess is x squared, and then a times b is 5x, and then b squared is 25. Sorry, I ran out of room. So it looks really small, but it actually factored apart into a binomial and a trinomial. Okay, and again, if we were solving, one of our answers would be 5. Okay, and then the other 2 answers, this looks like it might factor in the back. Like we could do 2 little binomials with x and x, but there's nothing that multiplies to 25 and adds to 5. So it basically doesn't factor. So in the back here, we got to do the quad formula. All right, and you basically do a new a, b, and c, right, and do the quad formula back there. Okay, so if you want to see the answer, I'll go through it quick here, but mostly the goal is to factor. Right, on the test you'll have to solve, but I think the harder part is again factor. So if you feel good of the quad formula, you don't have to watch this, but I'll blast through it really quick. Again, if you forget the formula, just look it up, but it basically goes, your answers for x are the opposite of b, plus or minus square root b squared, so 5 squared, minus 4 times a times c, and you divide that all by 2 times a. So in this case, 2 times 1. Okay, and then I always do the radical on its own, since that's the hard part, and that's what you do first anyways. So 5 squared is 25, and then a minus symbol. 4 times 1 is 4, times 25 is 100. So we get root negative 75. So we know it's going to be I for the negative part, but then also 75 you can break into like 25 and 3. because 25 times 3 is 75. So all that radical cleans up to be is a 5 for root 25, an I for square root negative 1, and then a root 3. Okay, so we're going to plug that back in. Okay, so our other two answers for x are negative 5 plus or minus 5I radical 3, and divide it all by 2. Okay, and so our answers, total answers, are 5, and then those two imaginary. So this little thing, x cubed minus 125, that has 3 answers. 5 and then 2 imaginary answers. Okay, that's all I got for this review video. Thank you for watching.